Hey everyone. So, this is a story that I have not really shared with a lot of people. There are a lot of stories out there about native burial grounds, Indian burial grounds, and once upon a time I lived on one. Without knowing it, I moved into a housing complex that was built on an Indian burial ground. Now, we often heard that this place was haunted. From children that were playing, they would run to the adults and they would say how they saw a ghost or a man is chasing them. And a lot of them had the same account. A lot of them said he was wearing a lumberjacket and he was chasing them. And they couldn't figure out if it was a lumberjacket or like a plaid shirt. But they were saying that he was chasing them all around the block and they were scared. They were literally scared. And granted, a few of these kids used to get themselves in trouble. Not all of them were, the best acting children around the block or the most well-behaved. And so a lot of people didn't believe them. A lot of people would say, oh, they're just playing jokes again. They're just lying again. Those bad kids. I didn't really see the kids that way. I saw them as really scared when I would stop, and if I happened to be walking and if they stopped me and they'd be like, oh my gosh, the ghost is after us, the man, he's chasing us. And I really believed them because I could sense the fear in them. I could sense that they were terrified, bad kid or not. Let's really keep it real. When someone is scared, and you can sense it immediately. And so I would ask them questions like, oh, what does he look like? Where is he? One kid, I even said to him, come on, I'm taking you back around the block. We will go find who this guy is. And he was like, no, I'm not going. I'm not going with you. You go. And he refused to go. And so, yes, I thought they were telling the truth, but of course, we never really know until we experience ourselves. And I did. One day I was visiting a friend of mine in the complex, in the townhouse complex. She lived on what we called the platform. And the platform was up top, and I think it had about maybe 8 or 10 houses, 5 or 4 on each side. And there was a parking lot at the end of the platform. Now, usually when I would be visiting my friend, when I would leave her place, I would turn left and that would take me directly to my place. On the right-hand side, it was the parking lot. So I never looked to the right-hand side ever when I was leaving her place because there was no need for me to look there. I just leave her place and go down the stairs and go to my place. Well, this one particular day, my consciousness told me to look. And I looked over, and there was a man standing in the parking lot, looking at me with a very shell-shocked, empty look into his eyes. And he said to me, come here, in a very eerie voice. It was almost toneless. It wasn't like, come here, or can you come here and help me for a minute? It just said, come here. And I was like, It even sounded like an androgynous voice, like you couldn't tell if it was male or female. The man himself was wearing, believe it or not, a plaid jacket, like a lumber jacket, those red ones from back in the day. He did appear to look like indigenous, native Canadian, or maybe, Mayan, that type of look. And he definitely did have a translucent, eerie look about him as well, like a transparent look where he had like a little bit of ether coming out the top of his head. But I wasn't sure if he was smoking a cigarette, to be honest with you, or if there was literal smoke coming off the top of his head. So I looked at him. I didn't answer him, and I looked at him, and of course it was the lumber jacket, the plaid jacket, that really frightened me, and the fact that he looked exactly like what the children had said this person looked like. And the fact that, to me, the guy wasn't running and chasing after me. He was calling me. And I was terrified. I have a few West Indian friends who live in Jamaica, and they told me many times before that when the spirits call upon someone, they should never answer. They actually call the ghosts a duppy. And they say that duppies should never be answered because something could happen to the person that is answering the duppy. So I didn't answer, but I won't lie, I was a little curious. And so even though I made my left-hand turn to go down the steps towards my house, I went down the steps and I kept looking over my shoulder before I even got to the steps. And by the time I got down the steps, I just stayed at the bottom for a minute and looked up at the top of the platform to see if I could see past and at least see his legs where he would have been standing. And I could hardly see him. I had to keep bobbing my head up and looking a little bit more, and then kind of like going to the side and bobbing to the other side and swaying to get into a very comfortable position so I could see him and make sure he was there. But it was like he was nebulous, just like a form all of a sudden that was not there any longer the way it was before. So I found that quite interesting. And it's not the first time that I had experienced something eerie in that in that complex. A lot of people have experienced things in the house that I was living in. I had my sister stay with me one time, and she woke up in the middle of the night terrified, and she said to me, "Cerise, are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, why?" And she's like, "There was a woman that came down the stairs, and she just looked at me." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, she looked like an older pilgrim woman who was just looking in on things." And she said that she was terrified of the woman. So, and there were so many more stories that were told to me. They were not my encounters or my experience, but so many stories that were told to me in that same entire complex, where apparently the person who lived next door to me, the husband chopped off the woman's head in the complex outside in the backyard. And it was like, wow, holy mackerel. And this was just like, I think it was next door to me, pretty sure it was next door to me or a few doors over. And I just couldn't believe that. So, deaths and all that stuff around the complex was really common talk. Ghosts was common talk around the complex. And after I left there, I didn't experience any more paranormal activity to that degree, to where, when I was at that place, that complex, there were doors that would open and close. There were some banging on the roof in the middle of the night, and there were plates that would fall out of the dish rack. Everything went missing. Everything. Just, I'd place something somewhere and I wouldn't be able to find it later. I would go back to that place in a heated search looking for it. Quite often it was car keys. I would know where I put them, and then I go and they're not there. And then I start looking around the house, can't find them, and then I'd just get fed up and I would say, "Please, God, let me find these keys." And you know what? I'd go by the door again where I would put my keys, and there they are. So, that happened quite often, just little things. But again, after I moved out of there, those things did not happen as often. And any work that I would do with people, and like any spiritual talk that I would have with people about their loved ones that pass on, it's not very often that I would feel their energy still around. If I do any type of medium work or any clairvoyance work with people who have lost their loved ones, I usually don't feel their energy afterwards unless they have an added message and the spirit comes to me to contact their loved one and give them their loved one a message. That's the only time that I ever hear really anything in my own home. So yes, if your place is haunted and you wouldn't mind having a spirit search at your place, I would love to come out to your place and check it out. You can shoot me an email at spiritsearchguru@gmail.com. and let me know where, of course, where you live. I only do spirit searches in Toronto and the southern part of Ontario. However, I'm always open to making a trip at certain times during the year to go do a spirit search if I have a whole bunch of them within one community. So yes, if you are interested in having a spirit search at your place, give me a shout. They are free of charge. And if you have a spirit search story, any type of ghost story, anything, little people, or any ghosts you've encountered, skinwalkers, the big tall black man, any type of shadows or ether or orbs or visits from and dreams from the ones who have passed on, messages, lights flickering, light bulbs busting in the ceiling, anything at all, TVs being turned on and off, any stories you have at all, just hit me up and let me know what they are, and you could even be a guest on our radio show. Take care of yourself, everyone. Have a blessed day.